Don't worry guys, I hear you loud and clear, I absolutely get it. Most of you simply want to know if they should buy the OnePlus 7 Pro or not, and you just can't wait for the full review. But I just can't release a full review until I know everything there is to know with absolute certainty, and therefore I made a game plan with a lot of coverage, which will start with this one, which is review part number 1, where I will cover everything that I already can tell you with absolute certainty. Then I'm actually already working for quite a few days on a super huge FAQ, where I will cover more than 100 questions and I will answer them as good as possible, but as quick as possible. I took a lot of feedback from you and I took a lot of questions that I just know usually come up. Then there will be a dedicated camera review once I think the camera is actually ready, which I think at this point is not the thing. And then to sum all of this up, I will make kind of review part 2 and give you the full experience. But today I'm gonna quickly go through all the things that you get a, I would say, good enough picture if this might be your thing. And that starts with the design and build quality, because I know a lot of you have asked me, is it too big, is it too heavy, how is the use and so on. Well, I can tell you this much. It is heavy and it is big. If it's too much for you, I don't know, because there are so many people who liked something like a Huawei Mate 20X, which was huge. And those people won't have an issue with that. But people who like generally normal sized phone, well, they might think different. So I can tell you this much. As you can see here, it is noticeably taller than something like a OnePlus 5T. It is though actually not that much wider and not that much kind of thicker, but it is for sure heavier. Now, I don't personally think it's too heavy because 206 grams is a lot, but I kind of like this heft. What I also like is the curved back. And along with the curved front, this phone actually feels way thinner than it actually is. About the edge on the front, I have to tell you this. It's a very, very subtle curve, a long one. Therefore, the edge is a little bit wider, but it feels very natural. And I don't actually have an issue with that. As you can see, the glare is there, but the distortion and everything else, and it feels fine. You can type on it to the whole side. I had no issues with kind of touching anything by accident or so. About the back, I have to tell you this. Since this phone is so big, I actually had an easier time using it with something that makes it even bigger. And I know this sounds odd, but for me it's like this. The matte glass here, which is by the way Gorilla Glass 5, is for me, when I have cold or dry hands, very, very slippery. And since this phone is so big, you need a lot of space to hold on to it, because it is after all quite top heavy. And for me, with like right now, it's fine, but with colder hands I had issues and therefore I was worried. So I took this case, which provides a lot of grip, and it's actually the case that comes in with the default. And even though it's bigger, it was actually easier to use because I could grip it with whatever I wanted to, and it was easy to hold on. So I actually have to say that until I get my own version, which will be the mirror gray, which for me just offers more grip at more situations. And I think that one will fix the issue that I don't really need the case. In case that also won't work out, since I can't really tell for sure, but I know that the mirror gray will be more kind of grippy for me, but with the size it's still hard to tell over a few more days. But if not, that is the solution that works absolutely perfect for me. I know there are like other cases, but this is the only one that provides me way more grip than, for example, the other ones that I got from OnePlus. Other than that, build quality is absolutely top notch. We don't have a notification LED. We will get the edge light. I don't think it's yet an option. But other than that, I don't want to get much more into the design. I love the in-hand feel, even though it's very tall, and I would wish for it to be, like for example, just 2x1 instead of 19.5x9, because then the phone wouldn't be so tall. But the width is actually not an issue, the weight for me isn't, but like I said, handling it, especially if it's slippery for you, might be harder. Now let's get into this one. I don't know what issues people have with this one. I think it's the best in-display fingerprint reader. As you can see here, this is so crazy fast. It's so reliable. They actually increased the sensor size from 6.6 by 6 millimeters to 7 by 7. And I have to say, pretty much blindly I can touch it, but you have to wait for this signal to appear. One thing that I also have to mention though is that this fingerprinter does not work well with moisty hands or maybe even oily hands. There it actually gets quite some issues. We also have, just to cover that, face unlock, and people said, yeah, but it's not a quick face unlock. I have to say this because, as you can see here, and what I've actually noticed sometimes when I do it, you don't even notice this because you look at the center, you don't even notice the camera going up and down. It's so quick that sometimes, because what happens, for example, if you unlock it 3 times wrong, like for example now on purpose, the camera will open up, and what happens pretty much usually every time, without me even noticing it, the face unlocks. But I also have to say it's not secure. I tried it with a picture, and yeah, it got fooled by that. Now next part is the display, which I just have to say is absolutely killer gorgeous, and you can't even see the highlight yet, because for a test of the battery I switched it to 60 Hz, and you won't be able to see 90 Hz anyways. But let me tell you this display is on pretty much already on an S10 Plus level. So finally Quad HD, also with the edge joint somehow, but those 90 Hz make such a big difference. And I also think that out of the box the calibration is way better. We still have different presets and all that, but it's maybe not the crazy brightest one. That's kind of, I would say, the weakness. Because, for example, I've seen a review where they said bigger, better, brighter. No, it's not brighter, because the 6T had like 790 lux, what I measured with my lux meter. This one only has 712. For me, it's bright enough in pretty much all lighting situations, because I only used it at 35% at all the time. But I know that a lot of people actually said to me in the comments that the 6T wasn't bright enough for them. So I don't see this to be an issue, but if then that is the only thing, because colors are great, the white is very clean, super crazy smooth. And I can already tell you this much, this will get 5 gold stars from me, because I simply don't see anything on the market that can compete with this. We almost get the smoothness of the 120 Hz on the Razer, but with way better quality. The next thing would be what? Well, the speaker system. Now I gotta tell you this, I'm gonna make a quick demo. But here is where I have to tell you that I think this whole thing isn't fully optimized yet, because if I use a normal track like this, everything feels fine. We have a good volume and we have a good sound. But the issue is that I've noticed, for example, when I watch different YouTube videos, there are some that are noticeably quieter than other ones. If everything is fine, I don't even need maximum volume. I usually am like 2 or 3 steps below and get absolutely good sound. But I've noticed that in some cases then my OnePlus 5T is louder, which is always consistently loud. But this, from video to video, is either super loud or it's not, and then sometimes not even loud enough. So I hope that they maybe can kind of fix this, because we haven't Dolby Atmos part here in the sound settings. But I have to say that for me, it almost doesn't seem like this does anything, because movie and music sound pretty much the same to me. And generally about the sound, I have to say that it's not on an S10 level. If it's even the S10e, S10 Plus, we don't even have to talk about it, because it just lacks a little bit of richness. It's loud enough and it sounds good, stereo effect is fine. But I would wish for a little bit something warmer that is not quite as extreme on the mids and highs, because this feels a little bit top heavy also in terms of the sound, if you get it. Headphone jack, I'm not gonna cover, because there is none on the phone. We kinda got that with the 6T already, but this time there is not even a headphone jack dongle in the package. So I'm not gonna judge it, because there is nothing to be judged. Performance, I'm gonna make super quick. It's the best. This will also get 5 gold stars from me, and this is actually the first phone that gets that. And it's not just because the 855 deserves that, because otherwise something like the Xiaomi Mi 9 would get it as well. But those 90 Hz make everything feel even better. And it's crazy good in terms of optimization. It feels buttery smooth. There's pretty much never any sort of lag. Everything feels absolutely great. I don't have to get into that. Gaming, I will check a little bit more. I did it already. It didn't really heat up. Performance was great. So let's talk about the battery life. Now, I know that a lot of people seem to have issues with what one YouTuber said. I'm not even gonna call out their name, but since when is this guy, starting with an M, the reference for battery life? His usage seems to vary way more than from a lot of standardized tests. Mine are usually very consistent, so I'm not gonna tell you the full final review values right now, because I've only used it for full 3 days. And I'm also checking though all the kind of different resolutions, so Quad HD or Full HD with 90 Hz or 60 Hz, and that just takes time. I can tell you this much so far. 1 hour of YouTube with the QHD setting and 90 Hz, I got on YouTube about 8%. That is still amongst the very best values. And a full charge takes 1 hour and 20, which is actually like 5 to 10 minutes more than I would kinda expect it, but this is still very quick. But the battery life, I don't get how people seem to have issues, because I've heard people like saying 4.5 hours or something like that. Now, what I got on mobile data, I would expect like for the first 2 days, like 5.5 hours. Yes, with Quad HD and with 90 Hertz and over a full day. And I can actually even show this. I just have to find it real quick because most of you otherwise wouldn't maybe believe it. I drained it from 100 to 5%. I made some pictures, YouTube, browsing, social media and so on. And what I got is, can you see it? 6 hours and 15 of screen on time. Along with, for example, the usage, as you can see, the display, obviously, I used quite a lot of YouTube, Chrome, Instagram, camera, Solid Explorer, so the typical stuff. And, well, yeah, what else is there to say? 6 hours over a normal day on a phone that offers me the best possible performance with the best possible screen at the moment. How is that an issue? Even if I would take the 5.5 hours that I had on mobile data, how is that an issue? Okay, like I said, this has to settle over the next few days, but what I also wanted to know, how much better does it get with 60 Hertz? Because I guess 60 Hertz, which I also have to say is a bigger impact in terms of the overall feel. For example, for the display, I think the 90 Hertz makes more of a difference than the higher res. But switching the 90 Hertz down to 60, what I would get roughly like for this day, for example, it looks like at least solid 6.5 hours, if not even 7 hours on mobile data, or maybe over the whole day. So I would say at least 1 hour more, if not maybe even 1.5 hours more. So this is the thing. What you get here, and people complain about the battery life, is already with a Quad HD display with 90 Hertz, a more than respectable battery life of about 5.5 hours for now. That is pretty much what I got back then with my 5T, but I didn't have that resolution, I didn't have that smoothness, I didn't have that performance. Now, here's the thing. If that is not enough for you, and I know a lot of people will say it is more than enough for them, but some people still won't say that because they drain every battery in one day. And for those, I just say, well, put it to 60 Hertz, and then you should be good enough. And if not, even try to use 1080p, which should maybe even give you an extra half an hour. I'm not quite sure. I will have to test that. But battery life, from my standpoint for right now, is more than good. I'm actually super happy because I thought about switching to the S10e a while ago. And back then I got 4 hours. I get 1.5 hours, if not 2 hours more here. So how is that even a discussion? Now, software I'm not going to cover. That's something that I will cover in the FAQ. Just to tell you this, it's the typical Oxygen software with a lot of great features, like 3 different kind of navigation options. Not a theming engine, but a kind of design choice option with different kind of themes, and so on, but not themes. This is my number one software, especially since it's not bloated. It's very well optimized and it offers a lot of small and nicer tweaks. Now, what I would usually cover here is the camera, but I'm not gonna do that, even though I could already. I made enough pictures, I made enough videos and everything, but I don't think the software is ready. Because if you ask me, I would say this camera performance at the moment for a phone of this price is so, I don't wanna say bad, but kinda so disappointing that I'm not gonna put this in a review yet. This can't be ready. Okay, let me tell you what I see so far. Selfies look very nice, not an issue here, also good portrait modus. Now, the front-facing video looks good, but it's for some reason only 1080p, even though the camera should be able to use 4K, also the chip should be, but it's not there. We have EIS though on 1080p and it works fine, sound is good, so in that regard it's also good, even though I have to say, especially the front-facing camera just puts up way too much contrast and also sharpness on it and feels a little bit too much. My face is just over-contrasty, and I'm not talking about my red color, everything is just too extreme. It just looks over-saturated and over-contrasted. Low-light camera, if you use the normal camera with a normal mode, with the OIS, which is obviously there, I actually have to say that the low-light quality is really good, but many people these days want to use the night mode, and the night mode, I have to say, is the worst that I've ever used. And they were so proud on the press event that I was on, and they talked it up, it's version 2.0. It's the worst. All it does, it kind of crazy overshot, it's crazily overexposes it, and everything gets artifacted and it looks just bad. I had some samples in my live Q&A. It was unfortunately also only in German, but the quality is absolutely unacceptable. Main camera, I would say, is absolutely fine, but not nearly on a flagship level. The Xiaomi Mi 9, if I don't get that wrong, seems to use the same sensor, offers way better quality so far. And then video quality, what I like is that 4K 60 without EIS actually seems quite smooth, but 4K 30 with their extreme EIS looks very jittery. So I simply don't know what kind of crack pipe DxO used, because they couldn't have a further developed version yet either. So how can they give this phone at this point in time 111 points, which is pretty much on a P30 level? There is so much not right yet. Selfies are too extreme. The main camera doesn't nearly offer the details and amount of clarity that this sensor can do. The low light is good, actually pretty good, but the night mode is terrible, and video is actually right now the best part with a good microphone. So all is good here, but I am not gonna judge this phone's camera right now. I will have to wait for at least 1 or 2 updates so they can fix that, but whoever says at this point in time that this camera is good simply doesn't know what he's talking about, which is, for example, the same thing with the battery life. For me, it seems like everyone kind of wants this battery to be bad because he expects it to be bad, since it uses a high resolution display, it uses a high refresh rate display, so it has to be bad, even though it's not. To me, it seems like people don't really actually review this phone, but actually just review it based on what it on paper looks like, and that is just not the truth. So let me get to my conclusion of part 1. This phone already is way more than good enough for me as a daily driver. No other phone on the market would be that, besides maybe the S10e that fits me better in terms of size, but I don't like the punch hole. Now, why is this already a clear daily driver for me? Well, because it feels amazing. And even though it's bigger than I usually ever wanted it to be, the whole rest that I get makes it worthwhile, because the fingerprint reader works so well. I usually don't always have like oily hands, so it's not an issue. Just at work I noticed that. But I get this amazing display with those 90 Hz, and that is something that we simply won't get anytime soon on the market in a package as high quality as this one. Then we get a speaker that, even though it's not nearly as on an S10 Plus level or like a Pixel level, is still after all a stereo speaker that is very loud. Not unfortunately in all cases, though. I think that kind of needs fixing. I hope it will get fixing, but therefore they kind of need to know it's an issue. So I'm telling you, OnePlus, fix this, please, because it's just a little bit off right now. But it is a very good stereo speaker system. Headphone jack, I don't really need it, but well, it's not there, so what else is there to talk about? Performance is monster. Battery life so far is more, actually way more than I would have expected, because I usually say give me like 4.5 hours. Maybe 5 hours, then I have enough reserve, so the worst of the worst things can happen. I can still easily come through the day or get through the day, and this is the thing here with 5.5 to even 6 hours, like we have seen 6:15 over the whole day. And if it's not enough at some point, and I notice that, I'm just gonna drop it to 60 Hz. Voila, issue solved. Software I already love. Well, anyways, and then the camera. I mean, the camera is not important for me. Someone actually told me that I should make up my mind, because usually I always said in the past the camera, I don't bother about it, and now it seems to be camera all the time. I don't know where I said it's important for me. I judge the camera and I talk a lot about cameras because I know it's very important for you. It is not for me. I mean, I would like a better 4K front-facing camera so I can make vlogs and something like that, but that is not a crucial thing for me. But as I can pretty much summarize this, besides the, at the moment, unworthy camera, this is this is the best phone at the moment available, because there is no other phone that has this good of a display, with the speaker, with that performance, with that battery life, with that software. Just not a thing. You can tell me whatever you want. Let's actually get into what a few people have asked me. How does it compare to the Mi 9? Okay, let's make this quick, even though this video already isn't, even though it was supposed to be quicker. This feels nicer, but it's easier to handle on the Mi 9, that I get. The display, not even a comparison. Speaker system, not even a comparison. Performance, well, those 90 Hz make more than a difference. Absolutely worth it. The battery life is actually better here than it is on the Mi 9. I've seen stats saying something else, but I did not ever get 5.5 to 6 hours on the Mi 9. Software, not even comparable. This is so much better. This is the best, so it's obviously better. And the camera at the moment is not yet. Especially, yeah, it's just not fully kind of mature. It doesn't seem fully kind of sorted out. But, okay, it's obviously also more expensive than something like the Mi 9, but I think it's worth the extra price. Because I would actually tell Xiaomi for once, go full premium. Do the ultra premium thing. Give me the best of the best, and not just, almost the best of everything. Now, quick comparison to the S10 Plus, because a few people wanted that. The S10 Plus feels very similar. It's actually a little bit smaller after all. The fingerprint reader I prefer here, like I do also on this compared to the Mi 9. The display is better here. Better calibration, not maybe per se better quality, but definitely those 90 Hz, those kill it. Speaker system on the S9 or on the S10 for sure. Performance, absolutely. Battery compared to the Exynos version that I had, absolutely. Like 1.5 hours more. Software, neck and neck. This is kind of preference thing. I super much love One UI. This is a little bit less bloaty, it's fine. And camera, we don't even have to compare this. This is not even ready, and this, in my opinion, on the S10 Plus is the best overall package with video, front facing, low light, and that. Even though it's not the best, for example, in low light or like this, or it doesn't have the crazy zoom or something like that. For me, the S10 Plus is the best overall camera package. So I hope that answered already more than enough, but like I said, there is a huge FAQ coming up, and I think that one will be like an hour, if not even longer. I will get into all the small details, like for example, call quality, also network reception, camera modes, limitations, so much more. And if I don't cover anything in that, I don't think anyone else will. So this is it. I think this video, even though it's already quite long, and I try to keep it compact, should give you, even though it's not a full proper review yet, already more than enough information for you to make up your mind. All I can tell you is that I don't see a phone at the moment on the market that fits me better. It's not perfect, but the things that it doesn't do so good don't really concern me, like the camera. A nicer camera would be nice, but I don't need it. And the rest is pretty much killer already. Speaker, like I said, needs a little bit, but it's already also good enough. And everything else is killer, because when have I ever given out 5 gold stars 2 times? And maybe things will change and it will get even better. But that's up for another discussion in another video. Until now, I'll say I'm done. Okay, that was, yeah, that was a little bit blub, but